Okay. All right. So today, in our previous stream, I took a look at the first three worlds in Emoji Pop, and we analyzed their designs and all of the levels by playing them and talking through them. And then I showed you how to use the level creator so that you can make your own levels. So today, I want to discuss how, one of the biggest problems new game designers have with making levels for the first time is it's a little overwhelming to face the blank page. So you might have some ideas in your head, but how do you begin implementing them bubble by bubble by placing the emojis in the level grid? And also another problem is some people just aren't really sure how to come up with ideas. They might not have trouble starting to draw emojis on the screen, but they're not really sure. They don't really have like a direction. So with this stream, my goal is to give you guys some advice as to maybe some structures that you can that will give you like a head start when making your levels. So I call these things level archetypes. So if you think about movies, there's certain like genres of movies. You have like your action movies, your blockbusters, and so that already, if you're making a movie and you decide you want to make a blockbuster, that gives you a formula. Your movie's going to have a certain rhythm. There are certain rules that you're going to abide by. It gives you like a space to work within. And so by putting restraints on ourselves from the start, it makes it a lot easier to start making a level. So the first kind of also, if you want to go ahead and try making levels while I'm streaming, go ahead and go to playemojipop.com on your phone or your laptop. And if you log in, you'll be able to create levels and save them. And then feel free to share them on social media, or you can copy and paste them in the live chat, and I'll play them live on camera. And I can give you feedback, and we can talk about them in person almost. Also, another thing I'll be doing later is someone I know made their own level just right before I went live. So I'm going to be giving that person feedback on their level and playing it. So that'll be like a fun first for Emoji Pop. All right, so to get started, in the bottom right, you'll see a pencil button, and that's going to open up our level editor. In the bottom left, we have all of our emojis that we've unlocked by playing the game. And so these are the objects with which we can fill our level grid above and to make our level. So the first level archetype we're going to be covering is the OnePager. So the OnePager is the most simple structure for a level. The rules for making OnePages are it has to fit within one screen. So normally levels are kind of longer and you have to climb up them, and they slowly scroll down as you progress up. But in OnePagers, they're unique because you can see the entire puzzle right from the get-go. So it gives you one unique thing about these levels is that it gives you a really strong motivation. Your objective is really clear immediately. These OnePagers also tend to be kind of dense because they have so little room to work with. So often in OnePagers, you're going to have a lot of smaller matches, and most often you'll have many colors. So this OnePagers tend to be a lot more strategic and puzzly. So if you're into making like really specific puzzles that have a specific solution, this might be a really fun level for you to try to make. So I have a lot more emojis than you do probably at home. Some of these aren't even released in the game yet, but I'll try to stick with some of the beginner ones, especially for this OnePager. So I'm going to make a OnePager. I'm going to decide to make a 6-color OnePager. So when you make a level, one of the first things I usually decide in my head is how many colors do I want to use. So I'm going to use all 6 colors in the game right now because I decided I want to make a OnePager that's really puzzly and provides players lots of choices. So by giving players the option to shoot of up to 6 colors, that already gives players every move they're going to have a lot of choices to make. And by having more colors in the level, that's also going to place a greater emphasis on color management. So color management is the strategy of managing your colors. So when you play the game, like let me show you, you have the ability to swap which colors you're shooting. And so this is an important strategy in the game. And so, and this strategy is even doubled when you have so many colors. When I make one-pagers, usually I design them from the top down. So normally when you make longer levels, it's usually better to start from the bottom. You start designing the first thing the player is going to see when they open the level. But for these one-pagers, the top is so important because the whole level is already within view. So I'm gonna start from the top. So right now, usually my one-pagers, there's two kinds of tops that are kind of standard for one-pagers. One would be to go ahead and place a row of soap along the top row, or you could also use the double rocket. So the double rocket or the soap row serves as the one shot you need to make to clear the whole level. So soap is good if you like the challenge. If you want the challenge of your level to be, how do I climb to the top? Just so if you meet your objective and you hit the top, then you win the level. So this makes for a really fun setup. But another setup you could do. So I'm going to use the X button to delete these soaps. Another approach would be to fill the top with all of the colored emojis. So because there's 6 colors, I'm going to go ahead and lay out 6 matches of size 2 on the top. And I'll orient them like the rainbow for fun. So this kind of top is a lot different than the soap row top. It's going to be a lot more puzzly and a lot grindier because in order to win, you need to clear all of the emojis from the board. So the player is going to have to clear each and every match along the top. So this level already, by making the top row be colored emojis instead of soap, it's going to take a lot more moves, and it's going to require the player to maybe get luckier with their cue with the bubbles they get. So let's just start off with this top, and we can always change it later on. If, for example, if I make this level and it ends up being really frustrating, or it takes a long time, or I find it's not very fun, a quick fix would be to delete these top row of emojis and replace them with a row of soap. That way, that right there removes a lot of the frustration for the players. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, what's going to be like the pattern for the rest of the level below this top row? One possibility would be to continue to fill the rows below with matches of size 2. So I think we're just gonna do that for now, just to see how it plays, and then I might alter it a little later to make it a little more interesting. So when you're drawing colors, one thing that I do usually, which I think is a good best practice, is to make sure the colors are as separate as possible. So for example, I just placed these 2 yellows right here. They're pretty close to this yellow match here, and because there's so many colors to choose from, I want to make it so that the colors are evenly dispersed throughout the level. So I'm gonna replace these yellows with purple, since purple's way over here. So part of the reason for that is it's really frustrating. For example, if I'm climbing up, if I make a yellow match right here, and there's a yellow match just above it, like I'm gonna have to wait a long time before I get another yellow bubble in order to make that match above. So this is why we try to balance the level by making the colors evenly distributed, in order to remove the possibility that players are going to get kind of trapped when they go up. Like if they're going up one way, if they decide to go up the left side, it's good to allow them to keep going up, and so we don't want to like burden them with having all yellows on one side of the board. We just have to do our best to make it even. So I'm going to put pink here since pink's way over there, and then blue here since blue is way over here. And so I can't be totally symmetric because there's only 11 bubbles in this row, so I can't do 6 matches of 2. So maybe this is where my pattern is going to get a little bit wonkier, and that's okay. I'll put yellow here. So for right here, one question I would ask you is, what color do you think should go here? It can't go green because that's touching green. It can't be yellow. Purple and pink would be bad because there's a purple and pink right above. So I think the best option is blue, since that's the match that's furthest away. So I'm gonna put blue here. So I notice there's not any yellow in the center, and there's also not any pink. So I was gonna put yellow here, but then I'd have to put pink here next to the other pink match. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the pink here instead. So I'm just kind of talking you through every little thing that's kind of hopping in my head. When you're designing, you might not be able to see this as clearly as I do, because I've made so many of these levels in the past. But my advice would be to just do your best. You can just quickly lay out some bubbles and then play it. And then in the spots where you find yourself getting stuck, or you find points of frustration, then afterwards, after testing it out, then you could change and swap some of the match colors. And so that's like another approach to doing it, instead of doing it all in your head beforehand. I'm gonna put red here. So we don't have red on this row. I'm gonna put it right here. And we don't have a green on the left side, so I'm gonna put a green right here. We also don't have much purple on the left side, so I'll put a purple here. And I'll just do this for a couple more rows, and then I'll test it out to see how I like how this plays. And I might try to swap it up to make it a little more interesting. Another thing I like to do while I'm outlining these bubbles is sometimes I like to make like a simple level, like just to get a core structure and figure out the pacing I'm looking for the level. And then it's a good idea afterwards to maybe add some more of the more complex obstacles. So for example, when I play this, maybe I'll decide it's a little boring and I wish that there was like a little more chance involved. So at that point I could decide, okay, so since I feel like it's a little boring, like maybe I need some more chance, that would lead me to the conclusion that maybe I should throw some dice in. And dice are an obstacle that's random based. And so when you're playing, it's good to be thinking, okay, what obstacle should I add in order to fix the problems that I'm witnessing in the level? Or what obstacle just goes really well with the certain behaviors I'm noticing players who play the level? Just gonna keep, that was dice. Just gonna keep going. Yellow. And so I'm not thinking about this as carefully as it was before anymore, and so I'm planning on just figuring out in playtesting what works and what doesn't. I'll make this the last row for now. I don't see a purple in this area. I don't see, so I would put a green here, but I have a green here. I might put a green here and put a red here instead, because there's no red up the right hand side. So this will make it a little more balanced. Yellow. There's a lot of yellows here, so that's something I'll just have to keep in mind. So I need a pink and a blue on the bottom row, so pink and blue. So that leads me to another advice. So this is going to be the bottom row of our puzzle for now. It's really important. The first move the player has, they should have all color options available to them. So I have all 6 colors laid out on the bottom row. This is important because right now the designer doesn't have control over which colored emojis the player starts with. So for example, if I didn't have a blue or a pink and they just had yellow, green, purple, and red, if the player started with pink and blue and they didn't see an available shot for them, the very first move, they're already going to feel like they're being cheated. They're going to feel like, oh, I got like an unlucky playthrough right off the bat. Like, so you're already setting things against them from the very start. So we want to make sure, no matter what, the very first move, the player has a good move that they can make. Okay, so I'm going to, if I hit edit, this opens up the edit tab, and I can change the number of moves the player has to win this level. I'm going to set it, usually I set it at a kind of high number, just because that way I can kind of play around and it won't like cut out early. So I'm going to set it at 25 moves for now. And I'm going to, before I do anything, I'm going to save it just in case something goes wrong. And I have made a lot of levels, so I have to scroll very far to get to mine. Okay, so now that I've saved it, my level appears in the level browser. So I can go ahead and hit, if I want to, I could share it. So if you make a level, feel free to drop it in the chat or message me outside of this stream or post it on social media with hashtag Emoji Pop, and I'll definitely play it. Maybe even on the stream, or I can even include it in the actual game. So I'm going to test this out. Alright, so I start with a purple and a green. So it looks like I'm going to be going up the right hand side. And so as a game designer, I've kind of trained myself and have been trained by others to constantly just speak what's on my mind, so you as the designer or the observer know what the player is thinking at all times. It's kind of a good technique for game designers. So I've already started digging up the right hand side, so I feel compelled to continue going up the right hand side. That's a common behavior of players, and it makes sense, so yeah, that's why I'm doing that. So I like this shot right here because the more skilled players, because I have a pink, there's two pinks that are sort of close, so if I can aim and land the pink between these two matches, it'll match all of them, and I'll kind of save a move, potentially. So that's like a place where sometimes having the matches be close together can actually be fun. So none of these rules I'm giving you are hard, fast rules, they're more just guidelines. Cool, so I made the shot, that makes me feel good. I made like a smart move. Having these spaces where players can make smart moves is also good, because if players lose and retry your level, it's good to have those places where players can feel smart so that they'll know that they're improving, and that'll make them more confident to try the level again next time. So this one's an even harder shot to make. So one thing I'm already noticing is there seems to be a lot of matches where there's good places to make two matches at once. So even if I match these two reds, then I open up two yellows that are together. So because I'm seeing this, sometimes you just have to make a level. So I just kind of threw these matches of two together, and I'm noticing an interesting strategy that's emerging. So when I modify the level after this, I will keep that in mind, and that's something that I'll try to enhance, or enhance the fun of in some way. Okay, I missed that. That's embarrassing. Let's go for the blue. I'm going up the right hand side still. I've used 6 moves so far, so it's still pretty early. So I'm gonna definitely make this yellow match to open up the top row, because the most important matches the player has to make obviously are the top row, because once you make all those 6 matches on the top, everything else falls beneath them, and so those are the real objectives of this level. Let's go for a red here. This purple is pretty tight. I might hold off. The blue looks easier to make. So there's definitely a good component of skill in terms of aiming. I think a big reason for this is because the match sizes are so small that there's lots of tight shots for the player to make. So that's just something I should keep in mind, whether it's good or bad. That depends. Kind of depends on what kind of player you're making your level for. Are you making it for a brand new player, or are you making it for a player who enjoys these skill-based elements? Okay, so as a player, this is an interesting choice. I could go for the purple, but I could mess that up, and that would cost me a lot of moves. For now, I'm just gonna play it safe. But I like that there's like a risk versus reward choice there. That's really cool. That's something that's always good to have. Because if, for example, imagine I was like 1 move away, or like imagine I wasn't doing very well in the level, having those really risky moves that could give you big rewards is important to have. Because players who aren't doing very well, it means that they still have a chance to win. Even if it's a remote chance or requires a crazy shot in order to win, like it makes the players feel like they still have a chance, and that's, you want to, the worst experience is the last several moves. If the player feels like they have no chance and they're just making the moves anyways, like at that point they're probably going to quit your level because they feel like they can't do it and the level's making them feel negative. So it looks like I have to go up the left hand side. So it is a little annoying. Like I made a lot of progress on the right, and it looks like I'm gonna have to kind of start all over on the left. I could make like a ridiculous shot with the green, but that's a really hard shot to make. I wouldn't count on players making that. But one thing I'm noticing that's good is, so this is a good shot to make. One thing I'm noticing that's really good is that every move, it seems like I have a good shot to make. So that means I think I balance my colors correctly, so that every move feels impactful for me. If I was noticing I was getting blocked often, like once or twice, at that point I would realize, okay, there's something wrong with the way I outline the colors, and I should readjust to make sure that the playthrough is more smooth. So I'm going to go for the purple. Since I've kind of started digging that way, there's a good green to get here. I'm hoping for a blue so I can access the top row. So here, popping this pink isn't the best. It doesn't really do me much because I'm kind of going for the top row at this point. And the red doesn't go anywhere. So at this point, this would be like a not so good move. One of these once in a while is okay, but maybe this is something I want to think about when I edit my level after this. So here, I have two reds. Nothing to do with them. So at this point, 2 moves in a row, I don't really have much to do. Like sometimes it's okay depending on the level you have, but I want to make a little more player-friendly level. So that tells me there's something I need to do. This is going to happen sometimes when you have the entire 6 colors in your level. But that's something I'm definitely going to modify because I want my level to be a little friendlier. And again, the third time I get a pink, there's nowhere to do. I have 2 blue matches here and 2 yellow matches here. So I'm really only waiting for 2 colors out of 6. So this area is laid out poorly, I would imagine. There needs to be, I need to do something. I have some ideas. So one thing immediately I think of is maybe when I edit the level, I can add some soap bubbles. So soap bubbles are really nice because soap bubbles pop no matter what color you throw at it. So that's really important because it prevents players from getting in positions like this where I have nothing to do. If these 2 yellows here were soap bubbles instead of yellow, if I got stuck, I could be like, okay, at least I can pop these soap bubbles and open up something above. So that might be a solution that I use. Let's just finish out the level. It looks like 25 moves for like a 6 or 5 row level or whatever it was. Like that's a pretty long level for such a short period, a short number of rows. So that makes me think I need to do something to make the level a little bit easier. And so this is like the 4th or 5th bubble in a row where I can't really do much. I could do like a crazy bank shot here, but I'm guessing most players won't be able to do that. I wasn't even able to do it. So at this point, I'm gonna quit. I got a blue here. That's really good, but it was too long in between getting useful bubbles, so I'm gonna quit and try to modify it. So to modify a level that you've started, just hit edit in the browser, and then I've opened up the level again for modification. Okay, so I mentioned I could. So one thing I could do is remove a color or remove 2 colors, and that would mean fewer colors would mean I'd have less chance of being blocked because just having fewer options and but I don't know. I like the puzzliness of having 6 colors, even though it kind of walls off the player at times. The problem with having 6 colors is if I shoot a blue bubble, that means I'm gonna have to wait an average of 6 moves before I get another blue bubble, and it could be up to like 11 moves. So if I get unlucky and I really need a blue and a yellow, there's a chance I'm gonna get a blue or yellow for several moves in a row. So that's the problem with having so many colors in your level. But I like having 6 colors. I think that's important for this level. So I'm gonna maybe try to add some soap in some places. So I noticed I got kind of stuck here. So maybe I'll add a soap here. So this yellow I was stuck at, it's a little deeper into the level. So at the beginning, we don't have to worry about players getting stuck because they have all the options. And the way the cube works, it gives them all 6 colors before it starts repeating colors. So I know the first 6 or 10 moves are going to be pretty smooth sailing as they were in my playthrough. So by adding some soap kind of higher up, I think that'll really alleviate some problems. I might add a couple towards the top too. I don't want to add anything on the very top row because I like that the players have to make all the colors at the top for some reason. So maybe one on the right side and one on the left side. So I got one place I got stuck with were these 2 blue bubbles on the left up here, and maybe I'll add one on the right hand side. I'm trying to think if it should be here or here. I don't know. That's an interesting question. I might put it here for now. So after replacing some of these bubbles with soaps, I'm going to re-examine the color layouts. So I only have 3 green matches in the whole level, but I have 5 pink matches. I have 4 purple, 5 yellow, 5 red, 4 blue. So the only one that's really deficient are green. So I need to replace one of these pinks maybe with a green match so that they're more even, so that I have a better color distribution, which is good for preventing players from feeling stuck. For example, like if there's 6 or 7 pink little matches, players aren't going to get that many pink bubbles, so they're going to be stuck at these pink matches. That's why I need to make sure the colors are evenly distributed. So I'm thinking here, since there's nothing on the right hand side with green, I'm going to replace this one probably. And so another thing you can kind of imagine is, imagine your player gets 2 bubbles. Let's see, if they want to appear, it's blue purple they would use. Pink yellow here, yellow blue, green red. So I have 2 green reds here. So like that's not the best. It's nice to give them all of the kind of combinations at the beginning. So I think I might switch these around. There's no red blue combination at the beginning, so I'm gonna switch the green and the blue here. And so that kind of is another layer of the distribution of colors, making sure players have all these different kinds of options based on no matter what 2 bubbles they start with. So I think that looks pretty good. So let's just try it now, and maybe I'll think of another cool gameplay mechanic to add through the more complex obstacles after, or maybe I'll leave it alone. Let's just save it again. Or you could just test it, but I'm going to save it first. And let's try it again. Okay, let's see. So I got a purple and a yellow. Let's start going with the middle this time. Yellow. So I could make this red, but then I don't really open up anything, so I'm gonna shoot the purple instead. And again, I'm just telling you what's happening moment to moment in my head while I'm playing, so you kind of understand how a level designer with experience making these kinds of levels will analyze a playthrough, so you can kind of do it in your own head as well. So let's go pink. That's a little more in the middle. For some reason I'm trying to do that. Okay, so red and green. So I could shoot a red here, which doesn't open up anything yet. Doing a red here, so shooting a red on the right hand side doesn't do anything at all because I'm still waiting for a blue bubble. So shooting the red here will definitely be a waste. I'm gonna shoot the reds here. There's a chance I get a yellow and I won't even have to make that green match, which is why I'm gonna save my green for later. So I'm gonna shoot the red here. Okay, so see, the next move we got a blue, so I'm gonna use that on the right hand side here. I'm glad I didn't waste the red bubble here, or it would have been a waste of a move kind of. Alright, green and blue. Okay, we're pretty far up the right hand side, so I'm definitely feeling compelled to go the green route. Okay, I'm gonna go blue here. I could try to pop these soaps, but then my blue bubble would get kind of stuck. So I think I'm gonna wait for like a yellow bubble, maybe even a pink, before I hit those soaps on the right. So I'm gonna go blue here. Ah, red, this is perfect. So advanced players, more skilled, experienced players will try to hit the soap and the red match at the same time. That's like an advanced strategy. Beginners will just go for the red. This is a pretty puzzly level. I'm going to assume the players have some degree of skill, or maybe they'll replay and they'll eventually figure out that they can save moves by hitting these soaps at the same time as matches. So I'm just going to pretend that I know that this is a good strategy. Okay, so we've used 8 moves, and that felt like a pretty smooth 8 moves. So let's see if that continues. I got a good pink here that opens up the top row, so I'll definitely take that. Ooh, so I can shoot this purple because I have a green next, and I know I'll be able to start making some progress in the top. Yeah, so one slightly frustrating thing I'm noticing is because these top matches are matches of size 2, it gets kind of tricky at the end. I kind of have to dig through all of these. I thought I was being smart by kind of going up the middle, but I still have to go back and make all these matches to go to the top, or else just get lucky with a crazy bank shot off the right wall. So that makes me think maybe the top row, maybe the matches should be of size 3. That way, if imagine the red was a little bit bigger, I would be able to hit it from where I am right now, and it would feel really good for me if I'd be able to drop all of his bubbles. I would feel like I was being really smart by saving all these moves. So that's something I'm thinking right now that I'll probably change. So I don't have that great of a move to make. But this will, I don't know, this is kind of getting in the way of me hitting the blue up there, so maybe that's not too bad of a move yet. Oh, see, so next move I get a blue, so I can totally make that match. That feels good. Okay, I have a pink. If you're feeling really risky, you try to hit the pink so that you hit the soap at the same time, but that's a pretty high skill shot. It's good to have these high skill shots again for, imagine if I had like 4 moves left. I know that I would need to do something crazy in order to win, so that's where I would start taking those riskier moves. So I'd like that I at least see those moves possible in this level. So I'm going to hit the pink. Oh, here we go. So this is a great match right here with the yellow and the soap together. And I nailed it. So purple top row, that's an essential match. That feels amazing. Next is the pink. That feels great. So again, I just wish this one match up here was a little higher up. I could make a crazy bank shot, but I think this would give, I don't know, I don't think most players could do this. I don't think I myself could do it. Oh, I did it. Cool. Something went wrong, so I'm going to reload the level. I'll figure out what went wrong there after. So I'm definitely going to make that upgrade that I talked about. Going to open up a level. I've made a lot of levels, and I'm going to edit it. So I'm going to make the matches of size 3. So this should be a red. This should be a purple. And after I do this change to the top, I'll definitely have to reconsider, at least take a look at the color balance again. So I'll make this a green and the top one a blue. So it looks like things are still pretty well color balanced. I've got like the same number. I've got like four matches of each color about, and it looks like I have an equal number on the left side and the right side. So this seems like it's well balanced, and I think that this would make it a little less frustrating at the end. So that works awesome. That's like a cool little short level that I think would play smoothly each time. Let's play it again, and let's try to figure out what move count we want to set for the level. And we can make sure that it's working well still. So we have it at 25 still. So we got a red-green. I got a green-red combo right here. This is why I want to have different combinations of colors. It's not just about the first move. Imagine we have a pink-yellow here. If we had a yellow-pink here, then I don't know. These having the same combinations kind of get players stuck. It requires them to, if they use a yellow and a pink, if there's a yellow pink on the right, then they have to wait like several moves to get another yellow pink, which is why we really like to have all these different combinations at the bottom. So green red works great here. I love that I got those colors. Oh, I got a good, I could either shoot the yellow here, or this seems like an appealing shot to get the yellow and the soap at the same time, so I'm going to do that. Alright, I'm digging up here, so let's go for the pink. Okay, so I'm kind of going up slightly to the right, so maybe it would be a good idea to go to the far left here. So I had a blue-purple combo. That works great for the blue-purple matches here. And then I got a green right after that. I can, if I get lucky, I can kind of nail the shot with the soap as well, which I did. So there's not a ton of great moves for yellow-blue, but chipping away at this thing in the center here might allow me to kind of get in a position where I can hit the greens at the very top. So I can hit the purple-green by clearing this yellow match, so that's still like a useful move. Every move should feel useful at least a little bit. So I got a red, so I could try to hit the top red match now. Yeah, that's probably what I'll do, because this is a really essential match here, where the red is next to the soap, but that's a pretty tricky, Yeah, so this is a really good choice. So I'm noticing now, like towards the end, maybe this doesn't happen on every playthrough, but it looks like there's some good choices. Um, so if I went the right way, if I choose this way right here, I go up the middle with the red. If I lose by a move, then I'll be like, okay, maybe I should have gone to the left side. That gives me something to experiment with. That gives me like a hook that in my head that makes me confident enough to want to play again. Let me just make the top match for now. So pink, looks like I kind of got to chip away at this little cluster of matches down here. Okay, so I'm glad I didn't shoot the red here now, because by hitting the purple match here, I can totally skip the red match by shooting the blue right up the middle. Oh, and then I got a red. So I could either just shoot the red here, or I could try to bank it and hit the soap at the same time. So I'm noticing that the soap really is adding a lot, because it gives you a chance to make more optimal moves if you have a higher level of skill, or if you're falling behind the level. So I'm really glad that I added the soap in the places that I added it. It seems like it's adding a lot of interesting choices. Let's shoot it here for now. Okay, so by doing the purple here, that kind of opens up the green and soap match above it to be a little bit easier. So I'm definitely waiting for this green right here. So because I need the green here, it might be good to make this blue match, because I'm not going to get 2 green bubbles in a row. So because I had a yellow next, that allows me to access the purple in another way. So that's awesome. Ooh, so I got that green next, so I'm going to swap that and make this green match. A little bit difficult, but still definitely doable. Okay, so I got the purple to make the last shot. If I can fit it in between here. And I did it. Alright, awesome. Cool, so that played a lot better, I thought. Probably if you're designing a level on your own, you would want to play it a few times, because you could have a lucky playthrough or something weird happen by chance, and maybe the other playthroughs it plays a lot differently. So that's why it's good to replay the same level a few times before you publish it. So let's open it up again. So I'm happy with how that plays. I didn't feel like I needed something more complex. It felt like enough strategy on its own. I can't think of another obstacle in the game to infuse into the level that would take it to another level. So I think I'm just going to leave it there. So one more note about making one-page levels is that on your screen, one screen is 11 rows. So this was a 5-row level. I could have added up to 11 rows and have it all fit on the same screen. Once I go to 12 rows, then the top row starts to get hidden, and it no longer becomes a one-pager. So that's why when you're making one-pager, just remember to fit it within 11 rows. So now that's enough for one-pagers for now. Although I'll probably discuss them more in another stream, because they're so fun to make because of their puzzly nature. Now I'm going to discuss another level archetype. So remember, level archetypes are kind of structures for levels. They're kind of genres. So in the same, like I described, in the same way that there's tons of different kinds of books. You have fantasy books that are all about these fantastical worlds. You have crime books that are about crime. They're all books, but they're all so different. They're all these pages of words, but they are very, very distinct, and they appeal to very different people, and they have very different characters. So same thing with levels. There's so many different level archetypes, structures for levels. So for one-pagers, I could make thousands of one-pagers, and they could all be different, but they have similar characteristics. But these different level archetypes, they're very different from one another, and they give players very different experiences. They involve very different methods of pacing, is one of the biggest things. So one-pager, the pacing is very quick and in your face. So right from the beginning, you're reaching towards the end. It's with the main goal is within your grasp, and you're just trying to hit the top row of soap or whatever it is. Another really cool level archetype that I love to make are called 3-act structure levels. So one reason why I love 3-act structure levels is because they play on the same 3-act structure that you see in storytelling. So this is probably something you've learned in literature classes or something like that. Most stories tend to follow a 3-act structure. There's a beginning where the story is being set up. Then there's a middle where the stakes are slowly rising, things are getting more intense. Then you have a final, you have an end, and that's where it's the conclusion of the level. Everything that came before it reaches an end point and comes together, hopefully well in the end. And it's kind of like the highest point of the level. It's the highest point of. It's called the climax. It's like the highest point of tension, of conflict. And so I design 3-act structure levels to be similar. They take place in 3 parts. First, you have the bottom of the level. So the bottom of the level is where you introduce players to the kinds of things they're going to be doing throughout the level. So for example, if you're going to make a level with like one of these complex obstacles, it's good to design the beginning in order to tutorialize or to teach the players how this more complex obstacle works, because maybe they haven't used it in a while. So the beginning is kind of like a little sandbox for them to get their feet wet, and for the developer to tell the player, this is what this level's about, so these are the things you should be learning and paying attention to. Then in the middle should take the same concept introduced at the beginning, but it needs to elevate it in some way. So there's different ways of elevating it. You could add a twist onto the original mechanic you used at the bottom. You could alter the structure in a certain way that makes things a little more difficult, even though they're using the same the foundation that you introduced at the beginning. And then at the end, that's where you want to really test the player's mastery of the thing that you're trying to teach them. So the end is going to be where players probably spend the most moves. It's going to be most puzzly. And so that's the pacing that we're going to have in mind when we design our level. So I think I'm going to, and I have not planned out what level I'm going to make or anything like that. This is totally going off the top of my head. So I'm going to use the dice for this level. I've decided, since I love dice so much, because I love the randomness that they introduced to the game. So dice are introduced in World 4. So once you get to World 4, you can use dice in your levels. So I'm thinking, there's different elements of levels that you can decide to make your level off of any one of them. So you could start off with, I'm going to make a 6-color level, or I'm going to make a 2-color level. That could be one way you start to think about your level. You could also think of, in terms of structure, do you want to have a bulky structure where the level's filled and it's like kind of a digging level? Or do you want to have like a thin level where it's more focused on like hitting wall shots and quickly climbing up the level? You could think in terms of match pattern or things like that. Or do you want to have small matches? Do you want to have big matches? Do you want things to be very symmetric, or do you want them to be chaotic? So any of these properties, these are good starting points for you to create your level. So we already know we're going to do a 3-act structure level. So whatever we choose needs to be replicated and evolved in terms of a 3-act form. So I think I just decided I'm going to do a structural level where it's thin and it involves like it doesn't involve digging, but involves like hitting wall shots and making skilled shots. So that's the structure I'm going to do. So I'm going to start somewhere down here. And something I like to do is to block out my level using just emojis. You don't have to do this, but if you're starting in terms of structure, it's often very useful to start off just outlining the shape of what your level is going to look like. So I'm going to start off by drawing the column I was kind of talking about. So players are going to be asked to kind of make shots banking it. So banking is what it's called when you bounce a shot off the wall. So maybe I want this to be, another thing you have to think of is 11 rows. This is very important. 11 rows are shown to the player at a time. So if they're trying to reach a point if you're, for example, if there's a row of soap that you want the players to hit, you need to make sure the soap row is going to be visible in the screen, or that they're going to be able to drop bubbles in order to see the soap bubbles quickly. So if I had a 13 row beginning and I had a soap row at the top, players would make all these matches not knowing that right above was the soap row. So that's kind of frustrating. So just you have to keep in mind that the player experience is to see 11 rows at a time, and so that's going to be a very important thing to keep in mind while you're navigating the design. So I have 4, 6, 8, 10. This is 10 rows right here. So because it's a thin structure, it's going to be really easy for players to kind of climb. So I think I'm going to make it a little longer. Maybe it is beginning, so I do want it to be relatively short. So maybe I'll just kind of double that. Also, so to add rows, go to edit and hit the plus button, and I can add rows, or I can insert rows in certain points of the level. So for example, I could go here if I wanted to insert rows between those red bubbles. So that makes it easier to like kind of edit your levels on the fly. You don't have to restart or erase a bunch of bubbles. And that moves our red bubbles down. So for now, let's start with like this being our beginning. And I think I'll use a different color for the mid. So this is our beginning. So we have to think of a way to evolve the beginning in the mid. We have to have some kind of twist. It could be structural, which is what I'm thinking about now, or it could be just something like smaller matches. So I'm thinking of structure right now because that's kind of how I started the level. So I'm thinking we have one column right now. One thing that would be cool is, okay, what happens if in the mid there's 2 columns? And so that's kind of an interesting twist. It's players move up the level a little slower. That would be interesting. But another thing I could do is, what if I kind of like this idea of them bouncing off the walls to keep hitting the bubbles in the middle. Another thing I could do is to make this column the same structure but just thicken it, so it takes a little more time and players are still kind of using the same mechanic. So I think that's going to be a little more cohesive progression. When you make the level, what sucks is when you make a 3-act level and none of the pieces feel like they really belong together, or it doesn't feel like it's telling you like a story. And I feel like by just thickening it each section, that's going to make the progression really clear, and it's going to really incentivize players to want to keep going. So after the beginning, which I'll say is about right here, I'm going to make the column a little thicker. And again, I don't know what the matches are going to look like or what colors they're going to be. I'm just kind of outlining, I'm just kind of brainstorming at this point. So it would be really annoying to make a level match by match the whole level without knowing what you're doing. Like just go yellows here, greens here. So this is one reason why I like to block it out first. So because if I was using soap clearing points, I would be rows of soap that you have to hit in order to drop bubbles. I would be thinking a lot more about how many rows each section is going to be. But because players are constantly dropping bubbles by making these matches, I don't think I have to worry about making sure the end point of the mid is within sight, since players are just constantly climbing up. So the bottom was pretty long. I think I want the middle to be a little bit longer, but not as long as the bottom, because this is going to take a lot more moves probably than the bottom took to climb up. I'm going to go back to edit so I can add some more rows. Let's see. So blue is the middle. So this looks pretty sizable. It's pretty chunky, so I think I'm gonna leave that as it is. And so for the top, I'll use purple for now. So the top will be thick. And so this will be difficult in terms of so the most important thing to think about is always the top row. What's going to be the final experience when the players trying to win by making the last moves. You want to make sure the very top row, wherever the players are trying to make the final matches, you have to make sure it's not too frustrating. So that's just something I need to be thinking about as I fill in the matches afterwards. So I could imagine like 3 matches of size 2 at the top row. Or I could, yeah. One thing is I wouldn't want to imagine that this was just one yellow match at the top. Players would be, if it's just one color they're waiting for, that's kind of frustrating. Like if the players expose the final match they need and they just have to wait for the right color, that's a little bit annoying. So that's why I'm thinking already it should be broken up into a few matches up there. Also for the top, I think I want the top to be totally viewable in one screen, so it should be no more than 11 moves. 11 rows, sorry. So I'll make it 10. And I got some extra space, so I'll use the delete rows. Also, when designing your levels, you might see little bugs. Definitely let me know if you see anything. Or if it doesn't work on your computer. I would love to know what's going on, and I could totally help you out. This is still a pretty new game. Okay, so I like that structure. I like how it evolves. I think that's going to be fun. Like when you play a video game, things escalate as you play. Things get a little harder. As you play Tetris, it gets a little faster. And I think that's kind of what this progression of structure is going to cause the players too. They're going to be like, oh, it's getting thicker. Oh, it's getting even thicker now. So I'm also thinking about how I'm going to be using the dice in this level, since that's kind of what I wanted to use. So I'm thinking about, it'd be really cool if I use the dice on the outside. So because players are like bouncing off the walls, it'd be really cool if they were hitting dice and they could, so when you hit a dice, it changes color. And whatever color it changes to, if it rolls into a yellow color, it'll match with the yellow emojis around it. So it could be really fun to be hitting these dice and causing chain reactions in the middle. So I think I'm going to put the dice on the outside and have the middle be solid. And this is something that I could totally change after playtesting it. I could do dice on one side. I think I'm gonna try doing it on both sides. I'm also trying to think like what number of colors would be good. If I wanted to be really puzzly, I could do 6 colors. The fewer colors you have when in a dice level, the more likely the die will roll into a color that it's next to and make a match. And so I would like a lot of chain matches to be happening when you hit the dice. So I think for some reason my gut's telling me 4 colors might be a good number of colors for this level. So I think I'll start off with that, and I could always change it afterwards based on the playtesting. So I'm just going to start coloring the bottom of our 3-act level. I'll kind of pick a pattern for the colors and just carry it up since it's so simple at the bottom anyway. So I'll go red, yellow, blue, let's go green. Red, yellow, blue, green. And so by following this order, I'm making sure all the colors are evenly distributed. So I'm going to just keep doing red, yellow, blue, green. Okay, so that takes us most of the way up the top. I'm going to go ahead and save now, just because I don't want anything to go wrong. And I'm going to reopen it now that I've saved it. Looks like there's a visual bug, so I'm just going to reload really fast. I love streaming because it shows me all the bugs, and you guys tell me all the bugs, and so it's a really good like a QA session as well as a educational level design session. Okay. Alright, so it looks like that little visual bug is gone, so I'm just gonna keep designing. So in terms of the dice on the side, so there's two things we could do. We could either make the dice on the side matches, or we can make them single dice. And so by single dice, what I mean is they don't match any of the colors around them. So that would look like this: green, blue. So this one right here can't be red, yellow, or blue because it's touching all those colors. So I would make green. Yellow is good. Red, blue. And so by making them single, players can't make matches with them. And so I'm forcing them to interact with the dice mechanic like really forcefully. So this level will be very chance-based. I could also make them matches. So I could do this, like a green match. Actually, I'll make this one a green match. This one could be a yellow match. And so by making these dice be matches, players then have a choice. Do I want to make a match with these dice, or do I want to take a chance and just hit it with a different color bubble and see what happens? So I'm not really sure. Or I could do like one side, one the other, or I could switch it up throughout the level. That might be kind of fun for now. And then I might do a little bit of both. And then for that reason, when I play test it, then I can kind of interact with both of them and see like what's fun, what's not fun. It also gives players a choice. Do I want to go for the dice matches, or do I want to just hit the single dice? So for now, for that reason, I'm just going to kind of balance it out. Some of them will be single and some of them will be matches, like in kind of like little sections. So on the right side, they're matches, so I'm gonna make them single on the left side. Green here, red here, blue here. So this needs to be yellow, so I'll make this a red. Blue, green. This needs to be a red. This should be a blue. Oh, so maybe at this point I start making the matches. So I'll put green here, red here. And I'll make some more singles on the right hand side. Maybe I'll make a match here. Okay, let's save that. Let's test that. It's just sometimes I like to just test. It might be nice to just when you're not really sure what to do for a level, just draw something or come up with some idea, and just the idea behind game development is quick failure. So you don't want to spend a ton of time into an idea that doesn't actually work at the end of the day. You want to just come up with an idea, try it out, and that'll, even if it fails, it'll guide you forward a lot faster than if you had dedicated your whole time to making this level that ended up not being that great of an idea to begin with. So I'm going to go for so one thing I like is that there's a lot of choices. I could make the green match here. I could make the green match there. I could try to make the match while hitting single dice at the same time, which is like an optimal strategy. So this is like a pretty good move right here. Oh, I missed the green match. Okay. Also, I forgot. I have purples high up in the level, so I'll be getting purple bubbles down here. I'll need to get rid of the purple bubbles at the top. So since I want red, yellow, green, and blue only. So that's something I'll have to fix afterwards. Make this red match here. So you see that one die changed, it rolled, and it became red. And because there's a red match next to it, it matched all together. So that felt really satisfying. That means I just need to make a match kind of over here, and then I can drop this whole chunk right here. Let me hit these single dice and see if I can just make one of them roll green. Nope, one rolled blue. Let me go for this difficult blue match up here. Okay, so it's getting a little sticky. That's good to see that was the experience. I'm going to make these yellow so that I make sure I'm not getting colors that aren't in the level. After I make this level, I'm going to play a level someone submitted today, and I'll play test it. And that'll be our first level play test in a stream. Okay, let's keep this pattern going for the top just so I get a full experience of what it's like. I have some matches on the left-hand side for dice, so I'll throw in some singles. This needs to be green, blue, red, yellow. Then I'll throw in a match. Looks like I can do a blue match here. I'll make these bubble wraps so I don't accidentally mash them and drop the whole thing. Bubble wraps, they clear when you hit them, but they don't pop in a cluster like the soap bubbles do. So actually, using bubble wraps to block out your level might be the best instead of using colored emojis. So I got a lot of singles. I'll do some more matches on the right. I like having matches on the right and singles on the left so that I make sure the choice is always kind of balanced. The players always have a choice of one or the other. I'll do a couple matches, blue, red, and let's end it with some singles. And yellow on the left. Okay, I'm gonna save it just in case anything happens. And let's test it out. So I start with the green again. I want to make that shot that I missed before. Cool, so those rolled yellow. It's not the best, but I can make a match with it now. That's good. That's one benefit of having a fewer color level, like only 4, is that they're more often to roll together. They're less likely to produce. The one worst thing you want to avoid with dice is ending up where players are in a dice field where they have a bunch of single dice that none of them rolled the way they wanted to, and they're just stuck shooting them and getting more buried. That's a really frustrating experience that most players wouldn't want to replay. So I could either make these single dice roll. I think I'm going to try to make this red die match instead for now. Okay, so I could go for these tight... So there's a lot of tight shots in this level. I was expecting this level to go a lot faster. I thought players would just go like 1, 2, 3, and they're already done with the beginning. So that's a good example of how the levels don't always play to what your expectations are, which is why it's important. It's a good thing I didn't make the whole level, because if the way that the level is now, it's probably going to be really long, and it might be a little too long. So it's good to test this stuff out. Blue, okay, so now that opens up the yellow. That feels amazing. I get a big drop. You need levels to have these big drop moments. So that feels already like a good beginning. That was like 5 moves. That's kind of the beginning should be like 5 to 8 moves, kind of depending. You can do whatever you want, but that's kind of what I like in terms of pacing. Like, because if the beginning is 10 to 12 moves, the middle is going to be like 15 moves, and the top will be another 20, and then you got like a 50 move level, which takes players like 5 minutes to play, which is a lot of investment. So I'm going to quit. Gonna edit this level. I'm definitely going to shorten it. So I made this yellow match here. That felt like a good end to the beginning. Maybe right above it is where I'll start the middle. So right around here, I'm gonna widen it. There's a blue die floating there for some reason. It's good to know. Okay, so at this point I know what the match pattern is, so I'm just gonna, instead of drawing structure again, I'm just gonna draw some matches. But I still want to keep in mind the balance. So I haven't had a green match in a while. So I'm gonna have a green kind of go out. Maybe it doesn't have to be totally symmetric. Maybe I'll just kind of make it a little... It might be cool if it's a little wiggly. I could just continue to do a really structured, orderly level, but having it be a little wiggly might create some pockets where players are going to be able to hit their bubble in a certain place where it hits a bunch of dice at once. So I think for that reason I'm just going to not care too much about making it exactly uniform all the way up. So I haven't had red in a while. So I don't know, it'd be cool to, what if they kind of went like this, you know, like snaked up. So that's kind of an example of just structure emerging from just laying stuff down. And I just gotta make sure none of the colors touch. Oops. So spots right here, like right here, when there's dice there, that's going to be a really good spot to hit a bunch of colors at once. So this is these are the kind of little pockets I'm trying to create. I haven't had a blue in a while on the right hand side, so let's start winding back the other way. Let's delete some of this stuff. I'll do red. I haven't had a green in the middle yet, so I'll probably do that. So I kind of have to put a red here. It's pretty close to the other red, but that's okay for now. We can always try to rearrange it later. Maybe it should be just a little bit longer, and then we'll give it a shot after adding the dice. So I think this might be a good stopping point for now for the middle. This might already even be too long. I'll add some bubble wraps to make sure it doesn't collapse. You have to make sure it's always connected to the top row or it'll just fall apart. So let's add some dice now. I'll make this a red bubble. No. Make it a blue. Okay, so let's do some dice for the outside. I think I want to continue making some of them be matches, some of them be single. You could totally experiment with like as you progress through the level and the structure gets bigger, maybe the dice become more often single. That could be interesting. There's lots of choices, lots of different ways you can make iterations of this level. Let's do a match here and a match above it. Around these pockets I want to have a lot of singles, so look here, I'll show you. So I want to have singles around these pockets because look, if you bounced one right here, you have 3 dice rolling, and this one could roll green, this one could roll green or red, this one could roll red or blue. You have so many dice where they have a 50-50 chance of making a big match that some of them are going to explode. So these are going to be optimal places for players to put their bubble. You want to have these optimal places because it gives players opportunities to feel really smart about their gameplay, which is important. So we don't have many singles on the left, so let's do that. Maybe we'll have one match here because I definitely want the singles down here like we were talking about. Yellow, green, blue. Then maybe a match. I'm thinking already this might be about the right size or even a little too long, so let's stop there for now. I'm gonna save it. Let's test it out. Okay. Also, sometimes I like to just make random moves, kind of, because some players, especially their first time, they're not going to know the optimal strategies, and some players are pretty new when they play these levels. So it's good to just hit random things. Don't think about anything for too long, and that'll give you a playthrough that's more similar to that of a new player. See red matchup here, that seems good to hit. Also, by spending less time, it gives you less time to aim, and that also replicates the skill level of less skilled players. So a lot of bank shots. This is going to be a pretty difficult level. So I can make this blue shot. So I like the level of skill. I want to be careful about not making it too skill based to the point of frustration, but having obvious skill on this level is going to make players want to keep playing it because the skilled players at least are going to feel like, oh, I could have made that shot better, I could have done this better, and that's going to give them the confidence to keep playing the level over and over again until they win. So this is the middle. Let's try to do this pocket shot like I was talking about. So you see how that cleared 2 matches in one shot? That kind of helped open up this area. Let's do it again right here. I could do it higher up, but it's a little difficult. I can do it here. Okay, so I just need this red match here. I can definitely do that if I make this match and then this match. So at this point, I'm kind of getting towards the top around here. I think that's a good length for the level, especially because I made some pretty lucky shots. Some players, it's going to take them a little more time to get through the middle than I did. So this seems like a pretty good length for the middle. So let's stop there. Some floating dice, that's interesting. I'll just ignore those for now. Okay, so at the top, let's start filling out the top. So the top should be within 11 rows. So look how long I thought the level was going to be at the beginning, and look how much shorter it's become. So let's delete some of these rows. Let me save it. I'm just gonna save and reload just in case anything goes wrong. It's good to save often, especially when your game is being made by a single person. Let's see what we got. Okay. So I cut a little too much off. So this should be about 11 rows. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish. Let's add a couple more. That should be good. Maybe so I'm also thinking at the top, I could continue the structure right up the middle, but I feel like it's too thin on top. Like if they're only waiting for a couple moves at the top, I don't know, it might be a little frustrating. Maybe one thing I could do is widen it out at the very end, or just have a couple rows on the very top. That's something I just gotta deal with when the time comes after I do some more playtesting. So at this point, we want to make it obvious the player is at the top. So we have a clear beginning, a clear middle where things get thicker and a little more difficult. And I definitely want to make this structure at the top feel even more difficult. So we're going to need to make it a good amount thicker. So let's just start laying down matches that kind of widen out a bit. And I can fix it later if there's a problem. And so I'm going to kind of go away from at the middle, as you see, all the matches were in line. Maybe at the top, I also want them to be a little more chaotic to signal further to the players that they're at the top, that this is like another extension of the level, and maybe having matches not be vertically going up, it's going to be a little harder to hit some of them. Again, I'm kind of just doing random placements, but also trying to keep the colors evenly dispersed to a point. One thing that I should keep in mind is on the outside, I should make sure that every color appears. So for example, I have green, blue, yellow, blue. I definitely need some reds. I might include 2 reds here. So just by drawing, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if at the end it split? I could split it into 2. That might be interesting. I don't know. I think I want to stick with the central structure, so I'll make sure it goes back into the middle. This might even be a little too wide. Let me like even it up. Let me shorten it on the right hand side. It's kind of difficult. Sometimes you end up in situations where it's hard to make sure 2 colors of the same color don't touch. But you just gotta like kind of rearrange the matches if that happens. I'm also trying to think about what the top row should be. So I don't have a yellow on the outside, but there's a yellow match here. I could replace this yellow with a blue. Maybe I'll make this a yellow. I could put a red at the top. So this is an example of me kind of mixing things around. green, blue here. I don't want them to all be vertical. Red. Blue. I'll do green above the red. Maybe I'll delete some of these bubble wraps. Blue. So yeah, so in the middle, okay, this should be blue. This could be yellow, and this could be red on the left. I haven't had a green around this area. So sometimes it is fun at the end to just pull a really quick twist. The last two rows are like, there's like a weird challenge to them. Sometimes I see this on Mario levels. The whole level will be kind of the same. Then at the end, it like does this crazy like weird thing that almost feels like a different style of game or something. Like that could be a fun like twist ending. For this, twist endings are fun, but it's also fun if it's consistent throughout. It's kind of just whatever you're going for. Gotta break up the blue match here in the middle. So I want to make sure it would stink if all of the matches going to the top were vertical. Like if it was a red here. Oh, so one thing. So I'm trying to think. I don't want to make the top two grindy because players are gonna have a hard time making these little itty bitty matches at the top. So I'm thinking, just by kind of mistake, I realized I could put a red here, and I was like, oh, what if they were a little bit longer? And that would make it a little bit easier to hit them. So I think that's a really good idea. So I'm gonna make these a little chunkier at the very end, and it also signifies to the players. All of the matches were size 2 before. Now all of a sudden they're size 3. These must be more important. So that's a good way to kind of subconsciously signal to the players that you should be going for these bigger matches at the top. So I'll make the green here pretty big. I already got a blue at the top. So I'll turn this into a yellow here. Alright, so that looks like a good solution to the top to make sure it's not too grindy. Like, yeah, I think that's a good addition. So I'm just gonna fill in the dice. Maybe at the top I'll make them all single dice for now, because that's another signal to the players like, oh, things are reaching their fever pitch. Get them to like kind of get in the mindset of, oh, like this is the top, like things are most challenging here. It also confronts them to, like, maybe if players were ignoring using the dice before, they'll definitely have to embrace using the single dice here where they're kind of forced to. And using the single dice is probably going to be an optimal strategy, like making these big matches below. So if players don't do that well at the beginning, but then they see all these single dice at the end, they might think, oh, maybe they'll have to force to interact with it, and they'll see these matches, and they might think, oh, at the beginning I could have been using these more efficiently. So for just these, because maybe these theories in my head, I'm just going to make them all single. I'm not going to put one at the top row. What I'll do is extend it. I didn't want to. Yeah, I want to make the sides go out just so they're easier to hit. I don't want players like banking it. Like imagine they're trying to make this yellow match, but there's dice on the left-hand side kind of blocking it. There's no way to shoot around the left, so I want to make it the top as friendly as I can, kind of, but still be puzzly. I'm not sure if that made total sense. I gotta do the same on the right hand side. So this is a pretty weighty top. There's a lot of matches, but there's only 4 colors, so we'll have to see how it plays. Trying to use roughly the same number. Like, oh, so on the left I see I don't have very many yellow at all at the top, so I'll put a couple in to help balance it out, just in case. I don't know, I kind of have some OCD with the color stuff. Like, It also makes it like kind of look a little nicer. Like it shows the player that you put a lot of time into making everything even. All right, this seems good. It looks cool. That's one appeal. Like just the aesthetics are important too. So I like that it looks like a cool pattern that progresses. So that's cool. And it has a clear beginning, middle, and end, which are the three essential elements to a 3-act level. So let's try it out. Hopefully it'll be perfect the first playthrough, and we won't even have to do anything to it. Okay, so I got unlucky with the dice roll there. Let's try it over here. Okay, so I could do something kind of risky and just shoot it here and just try to make some matches. Oh, so right here it makes the green match. Okay, so what I can do is try to hit the yellow match of dice while hitting these single dice. So the way I'm playing now, it's assuming the player is using a good amount of skill. Okay, I'm going to try to hit these green bubbles, and maybe that yellow die will spin into a red. Didn't get... Oh, I also realized we only have 5 moves. It's fun to kind of guess what you think it's going to take. I'm going to guess 27. Let's try it again. So I got pretty unlucky the first time. Let's see if I get luckier this time. So I got luckier in a way. I cleared that match out, but now I got to deal with these single dice. Cool, I got a little lucky there, and so now I got a good drop here. So it took me a few moves to get that drop. That feels good. That feels like a good beginning, and now I'm entering the middle. So I like that length for the beginning. Oops, I missed the shot there. Could go up the middle, or I could go here, or I could hit the singles. I'm going to save this blue for now and see how it goes if I shoot the red up here. Oh, made a match. Okay, I'm going to expose a match, so I might as well just keep going. I'm going to make some matches in here. So I opened up the space to allow me to make some matches using the dice, so... Oh, cool. So that feels good. I was like, let's just keep going up the left, and it actually opened up this really essential match up here. If I can hit it. Nice, that was close. And look, I got a green, and there's a green dice match here. So that felt really good. That felt like a hard-earned drop point. That took about 8 moves there. So the beginning was a few moves. The middle was like 8 moves. So it's kind of good to keep track of how long each section is taking you. And I'm still got a little more in the middle to go, but I'm definitely like starting to get into the top. I could start like making moves at the top. So I'm also noticing, wow, there's a lot of matches in there. I wonder if I'll have to change the match size. Alright, let's make this dice match. It also looks like I'm gonna have to kind of dig a lot at the top. Because all the matches are so tiny. Let's just see. My instinct is to make the matches a little bigger, to combine some of them at the top. So that's why it's so important. You gotta play test your level, and any weaknesses you see, any points where you're like, oh, this might be a little boring, or this might be a little frustrating, that's a key of, there's a way to improve your level, and you just have to think of all the possible ways you could possibly change the level in order to improve it. Whether it's new obstacles or adding soap or changing the match sizes or altering the structure, you'll just gain experience by trying different things and trying different solutions, and you'll get a better design mindset for how to solve these problems. Let me just keep digging in here like I was before. Like me personally, I like in 3-act levels like this. Oh, so I got a drop point here. It's good to, like, if you go like 15 moves or even less than that without a drop, that feels pretty bad. Like, you feel like you're kind of just digging away and not making much progress. It's good to have these drop points regularly. So at this point, I noticed, okay, it scrolled to the very top. So that feels good. I feel like I don't know. I worked a lot of that section, But now it was almost like part of the top because the matches at the very top are kind of chunky, and I can kind of skip most of this section here. So maybe it'll work out okay. Oh wow, that was an awesome match. That feels amazing. So I only had 6 moves. I didn't think I had a chance, but that makes me think maybe I do have a chance of winning. Oh, that was unlucky. So it was originally set for 27 moves. I also like, so I kind of like that the matches here are so small because it encourages you to even further to bank around and hit the top matches, because I could dig up all the way up the middle right here, but that would take forever. So I like that it reinforces the strategy of go for the higher matches by hitting the dice. So maybe I won't change the match sizes. Okay. So I'm about to run out of moves. So I'm going to try it again, especially when you've made a full level. It's really important to play your level multiple times. Let's say 32 moves. Alright, I'm just going to kind of play. I just made a shot, the first one that kind of looked good to me. That was an awesome match. So I like that the beginning really fluctuates. So another great thing about having, this is a great shot. Another great thing about having a clear beginning, middle, and end is that players will notice when they do better or worse in these sections. So one time I played the beginning and it took me like several moves. This time it only took me like 3 moves to make a drop. And so by seeing these fluctuations, that encourages me, that tells me, oh, there's times where I'm going to get luckier and or make better decisions, and that's going to allow me to do better, and that makes me more confident to keep replaying the level. So that's a really great feature of the 3-act structure, to make these distinct sections that tell you like, oh, you did this part better, oh, you did this part worse than last time, and it allows you to more clearly kind of examine your strategy. So like players eventually on replaying this level, they're definitely going to be starting to realize they need to aim for these like areas where they hit a lot of dice in order to make the matches. Cool, that was pretty good. Some pretty tight shots here. So this, again, this is a pretty skill-based level. Oof, that hurts. Oh, that was pretty lucky. I'm going to go for this one. Oh my god, that feels amazing. So that's just something to keep in mind when you play. If I won by a few moves, like I have to keep in mind I made an amazing shot and I got pretty lucky at the beginning. So again, there's so many choices. I could shoot for like up here if you're I messed up. Like you could go for these really difficult banks, or you could just kind of chip away at the bottom. Like there's a lot of choices, and that gives players a lot more incentive to keep having a good time replaying your level, and that makes it really. It's important to keep them replaying your level, because the best experience is when you lose a couple times and then you win by learning the level. So that's why you need to be thinking about replayability. So like, yeah, I always worry in this part, like, are there too many matches that are too small in the middle? Like it even looks intimidating, you know? Like it feels like a lot to dig away at. And because they're so tight, you don't get to like, you have to like make a lot of matches before you even access them because they're so small. So all this is making me think that we should definitely change the match sizes, which I'm not going to do tonight, but I might do another night. I'm going to be streaming Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay. So cool. So this is kind of just giving you, just to summarize, this is what I've talked about is to show you a couple of the different level archetypes that will help you allow you to like make it easier to visualize what kind of levels you want to make, and these different level archetypes which we talked about, including the 1-act the one screener levels and the 3-act levels, they give you like really clear formulas for pacing your levels, and these pacings, keeping these different kinds of progressions in mind is going to allow you to make way different variety of levels. It'll make it easier for you to get started because you'll have a certain progression in mind. Progression is the hardest thing to create. Like if you just have an idea for a structure or a match or something like that, like it's hard to take like, oh, I want to use matches of 2 in a certain way. It's hard to embed progression in that. So it's really useful to start off with a progression model and then pair that with a structural decision, whether it's the number of colors you use or the structure or the match pattern. So that's kind of why we're talking about level archetypes, and it also allows you to see the different kinds of possibilities of what you can do in Emoji Pop. Right before we leave, I want to play a level that someone submitted today on Twitter. So someone submitted this level, so I'm just going to give you my full analysis of this level and show you what it's going to be like when you submit your levels to me. I see 6 colors, so this is going to be a 6-color level. One thing that I think immediately that they can improve on is I only have access to 3 colors at the beginning, so I got pretty lucky that I got a pink bubble at the start. But imagine if I had started with the blue and green, I would have had to waste a bubble, and I would have just been kind of waiting for the right color, and that's kind of a frustrating experience at the beginning. Although you could totally use it to your advantage. Maybe this person was trying to to incorporate this into the levels, which is totally fine. But it is good to start off with a color of each type at the very beginning. But I got lucky, so I got a pink, so let's do this. So it's really cool how they have really chunky matches at the beginning, especially like the purple up the middle, like that really changes the structure of the level. And so that purple, so one thing that's interesting is I can beat the level in 3 moves by going right up the top. So my feedback might be to maybe break up these higher matches a little bit, but I do really like the chunky matches because one thing I was thinking of, I made this big purple match, and then I can kind of make these higher matches through these narrow channels. So I really like that feature of the level. That might be something to build on. Let me refresh it and try playing it again. I like also they use the double rocket at the very top of the level, but they don't use it too much below, so that it gives me like a really clear objective. So one thing that's really important in Emoji Pop level design is to give players really clear objectives to strive for. So the level has been updated a little bit, I think. So that's cool. So they start off with a soap match, and that opens up the level. So having the soap, I love that. Totally fixed the problem that I mentioned. That's really awesome. So they added a row of soap at the beginning. So imagine if you had the first colors are blue, purple, and yellow. Imagine if I had red and green. I wouldn't be able to make a match. But because they added a row of soap at the bottom, I could be like, okay, let me use the color that I don't need so I don't want to use blue, purple, yellow on that soap. Let me refresh it. I want to use the color that I don't need for the match on the soap, and then I can use the bubble that I held onto to make one of the matches. So the soap bubble is like an opportunity to use the strategy of color management really effectively. So I think that actually fixes the problem that I was talking about regarding. So I have a pink and green. So imagine I had a purple and green. I would save the purple because I'm like, I can see ahead. I want to save the purple, and so then I would get to use the color that I saved to make the match. So I really like that change. So let's see. Pink's the only thing I can do here, so I'll do that. So that opens up this objective of the rocket, which I really like. That feels really, really satisfying. That allows me to use this rocket. So this level, it seems, is how to use the rockets efficiently, which is cool. So I would reduce the moves to make it a little more difficult in this situation. And so winning the level it lies entirely on your ability to make these perfect rocket matches. Let me refresh it. So with all these levels, I like to give suggestions of how to modify your level if you want to take a different paths, or if you're happy with it, you can just incorporate these ideas into future levels. So let's see what I start with. Pink and red again, so it doesn't matter what I do here. Okay, so now I'm going up the right hand side. So another thing I really like about this level is because they use chunky matches at the beginning, it really changes how the level progresses based on the colors you're given. So I was kind of forced to go up the left side. Imagine if I had lost going up the left side, I would feel confident trying again because maybe I'll go up the right hand side next time, and maybe that will be a better, a more lucky path to go up. Blue. So one thing to notice is this rocket on the far right won't actually do anything because the second I open it up, it'll drop. But it could just be a red herring if the designer intended it to be like that. And that match opens up this great rocket match. So I like that different parts of the level are put into use different ways. I still feel like to make this level even cooler, it would be awesome if the designer broke up the matches a little bit in the middle, especially, or maybe put some of these lower rockets a little higher up, so that I have to kind of work a little more to get to these rockets at the top. Because now, at this point, the level feels a little too based in chance with the colors you're given. And if there were more matches in between myself and the rockets I'm going for, that would allow more strategy and managing the colors. So this is a 6-color level, so color management is going to be very important. So having more matches is going to allow me some time to strategize and choose which matches I make very carefully in order to build up to these rockets. And it's going to feel amazing, even more amazing than after I've put a few more moves into it to make out this rocket finish. So awesome level, and I would love to play it again if this person wants to modify it. I think there's some really interesting aspects of that level that I really like. I think it's very unique. Okay, so that's all the time I have now to stream. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna stream Emoji Pop Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the time area of 7 to 9 o'clock. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to follow me on social media and follow me on Twitch and message me your levels in the stream or tweet them to me before the next stream, and I would love to play them live on the show. And I'm so happy we got to play the very first user submitted level today. This is a groundbreaking day in Emoji Pop history. You should all write it down in your calendars. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a good night.